Okay, we're recording. So we'll pause for 5 seconds.
What is up, Startup Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Private Practice Startup. Private Practice Startup podcast. Excuse me. I am Katie Lemieux, and I am here with my awesome co-host, friend, business partner, all of the above.
What's up, guys? Dr. Kate Campbell here.
You know, it's funny. I just realized on our last podcast I didn't introduce us.
I totally forgot. Yep, totally forgot.
So listen to this podcast first. You know who we are. Listen to the podcast before. Speaking of the podcast before, we had Alex Molik from Therapy Sites talking about online marketing tips. So if you are trying to boost your online business, you are in the right place because we actually have been talking a lot about marketing. And our guest today, Amy Crane from Social Lab Marketing, is going to talk much more about marketing, specifically Facebook. And we actually found Amy through none other than Allison Perrier of Abundance Practice Building. And Allison had posted some stuff and we thought she had some really cool ads. And then Amy had an e-course that we actually did. We purchased. It's great. We were just talking about the great results that we've actually produced from utilizing her ads, even upwards of $10,000 in sales, sold out events. So her ads have had a definite impact. Now, I'm not going to say it's all the ads because there's a whole process that happens behind the scenes. But having an ad is that first window into getting people to your e-course, your workshop. But I know that we work with a lot of coachees who are we work with coachees in the startup area, but we also work with coachees more in the mastery area, right? They have their practice, it's full, it's kind of running as they want it, and they really want to create something more. So doing those books or e-course and workshops. So these ads are going to be great for that, but they're also great for really creating creative ads that actually connect with people and reach out. So Amy's going to be able to introduce herself shortly, but before we get to that, we want to say thank you if you're a first-time listener. If this is your first introduction to us, we want to say thanks for finding us and how did you do that? And we do have a gift for you being our special guest, and that's our A to Z cheat sheet, the essentials for building and growing your dream practice. So you could just head over to privatepracticestartup.com, head over to the resources tab, and there you'll find the A to Z cheat sheet.
And before we get started, we just want to take a quick break for our sponsor, and that is our attorney-approved private practice paperwork. We know as clinicians, you love to make a difference in the world, and we want to continue to support you to do just that. So in order to keep making a difference and being in private practice, you don't want to leave yourself and your practice open to legal issues. And knowing that you need legal and ethical comprehensive paperwork can be overwhelming and time-consuming, and not to mention expensive. And we're clinicians, not lawyers, right? So we actually put in a ton of work. We work with multiple attorneys, comb through the laws and ethics, and pay the expensive attorney fees so you guys don't have to. We want to encourage you to check out our attorney-approved private practice paperwork, make your life easier, and continue to do what you love throughout your career. Head over to privatepracticestartup.com. Go to our shop, and under the shop tab, you'll see our a la carte paperwork options as well as our paperwork packages. And we have a freebie form giveaway for you on our a la carte page. So make sure to check that out and enjoy.
And then also, if you want to hang out with us some more, since we're talking about Facebook, find us on Facebook, ask to be part of our group. And actually, there you'll be able to interact with us directly. Amy has her own Facebook group, and I post, I think it was like one of those days during the holidays where I had the whole day, and she must have been like, why is Katie so active? Like 5 different questions, boom, boom, boom in a row. So we're here to support you and the community of therapists, the thousands of therapists in our community. Hang out with us on Facebook. You'll be able to connect with us directly. So without further ado, Amy Crane, welcome.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're excited that you're here.
We are super stoked. We've been really looking forward to this podcast for a long time. So tell us a little bit about how you got started with Social Lab Marketing.
So I'll keep this pretty short, but I actually got started with Social Lab and Facebook ads. I had a retail business, so brick and mortar, for 3 years. And I had tried advertising in newspapers and magazines, like all that stuff, that they tell you to do. And I just wasn't really getting any response from it. And I didn't feel like it really fit my audience. And so this was back in like 2006, 2007. So Facebook ads were pretty new back then, but I started to hear some buzz around it. And I actually got started with Facebook ads pretty much the same way everyone else does. I wasted a lot of money on it. I ran a lot of bad ads that didn't work, and it took a lot of time for me to figure it out. And eventually I decided to get out of retail. I wanted to move online. So I kind of fell in love with, I had like a love-hate relationship with Facebook ads, but I saw how powerful they could be for businesses, and I know how time consuming they can be for business owners. So I created Social Lab as a way to help other people, get their work in front of more people with Facebook ads to make that whole process easier for them. And then also to teach people how to do it, because I think that when you learn how to do them the right way, you don't have to spend a ton of money on them to see big results, and you can get your work in front of more people. So that's how I got into Facebook ads. Yeah.
And I definitely have a similar story. Not that I was like trying to do so many Facebook ads, but I think of like John Bon Jovi, like a wing and a prayer. Just throw it out there, hopefully something will stick. And it's kind of like nothing. And I see therapists post about that in the group. They're like, I boosted a post, but nothing. And the other thing, too, when we had an awesome podcast with Michael Formica from the Counselor's Concierge talking about Facebook ads, and for therapists. So if you're a therapist wanting to use this for your professional services, Facebook ads don't necessarily generate a client right away. It's not like a retail product. It's really about building a relationship. So yes, you might learn how to do a Facebook ad, but you have to continue to nurture the relationship, because many times, unless people like are in a crisis or they're overwhelmed, they're not ready to totally jump in. They might be perusing, thinking, their marriage might not be that great. They see your ad, they see a blog that you wrote. Oh, okay. And then something happens. You want to make sure that you actually have that relationship with them and you're nurturing them. So Facebook ads.
Yeah, let's dive right in. Tell us some tips that clinicians could find useful about starting to dabble in the world of Facebook ads.
Yeah, so I think that that's a really good point and I hear this a lot, they'll set up an ad, they'll run a boosted post, and then they get upset or annoyed because they're not generating clients right out of the gate. And you've got to understand, Facebook ads work for a lot of businesses, but it's also figuring out what works for your business. So Facebook ads are so much more than just getting someone to book a call or come into your office. It is about building that relationship. So when you think about using Facebook ads as a way to support that, to reach people in your community so that you stand out, so that when they do need someone, you're the first person that pops in their head. Because you're right, they may see your ad and they may not need it, whatever you're offering that day, but that doesn't mean that they won't need it. So a couple of tips that I always like to share with people, especially when they're getting started, is, test a couple different things. Test content. Like, that's usually the best place to start, is just getting some content out there, letting people know who you are and what you're about and who you serve and who you work with. So really educating people on it. A lot of times people want to skip straight to the sale, but you still have to build that relationship first. So I think that that's really important. I think the other thing is that don't throw a lot of money at your Facebook ads until you know it works for your business, because that's the other thing I hear people, they've created an ad, and I did this when I created my first ad. I threw like $200 at it. Nothing happened. I thought I was going to wake up to all these sales and, all this traffic, and nothing happened, but I wasted that money. So the way Facebook ads work is that you can start with a small budget. You can start with $5 a day and just promote some content, right? Promote some posts that you've put up on your page that you want to make sure people see. So if it's something really important, that's usually a good post to just boost to make sure people see it.
And what kind of post or what kind of content would you recommend experimenting with? Would it be like a blog post or a vlog or something else?
Yeah, so blogs are great. Video is huge on Facebook right now. So if you do vlogs or even just shooting like a quick video, you can do Facebook Live. Obviously, Facebook loves Facebook Live videos, but I know that sometimes doing Facebook Live videos can be a little distracting because all those little things are like popping up on the screen. So like what I do is I'll just record a video on my phone and then I post it to my Facebook page. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have perfect lighting and you don't have to have a perfect set behind you. It's more so people can connect with you. So those videos that have that organic feel to them, those tend to do really well on Facebook because Especially if you're going to be working with someone one-on-one, they want to get to know you a little bit better.
And so one of the things I think therapists struggle with or deal with is, number one, not kind of coming off and being the one to tell things like, right, we consider ourselves expert, but sometimes we don't want to share too much because people are worried, like, oh, are people going to think this is therapy? Also too, is sometimes we get too much into our therapy jargon, and sometimes we're just not hitting on the generalities of what people want and need. And we really have to like look for them to be excited about this content. We might think it's good content, right? But how do you get into the mind of your potential client? Like, what are some tips that you have, Amy, for people to really think like, well, would this be something my potential client would want to know about?
Right. So yeah, because it's so easy. Like with Facebook ads, I might get really excited about like conversion pixels, but most people are like, they start rolling their eyes and they'll like glaze over if I start talking about conversion pixels, right? So one of the things I do and that I recommend people do is I just keep a spreadsheet, and I just try to pay attention to the questions that potential clients or customers are asking. And this could be anywhere from Facebook groups. It could just be calls that you're having with potential clients. Like, what are the words? What are the language that they're using? And so I feel like when you can nail that down, you'll start to see that there are a lot of things that come up over and over. Usually there's a few things that just keep coming up for your clients. So if you can pull those out, then those are usually the best pieces of content, because it is so easy when it's something you do all day, every day, to get like into the details or be like, well, this isn't exciting enough, or are people really going to be interested in this? And so when you can nail that down, and if you just test, like you could just test a couple different ideas. So maybe you've got a few pieces of content. If you just put a couple dollars a day behind it and see what kind of engagement you get from it, that'll also give you a good idea of what your audience is responding to.
And what, as you're testing and putting, maybe you're doing some A/B testing and you have different options, as you're looking at the results in Facebook's ad manager, what are the most important results to look for?
So the results are going to depend on the type of ad that you're running. So an engagement ad is the easiest ad to set up, a boosted post. And basically what you're looking for with that ad is how much engagement the ad is getting. So are you getting a lot of likes? Are you getting a lot of comments? Are people sharing your post? So really just a basic, easy way to look at that is if you've got, 2 boosted posts that you put up and one's got, 50 comments and the other one's got 10, then that's just like a really quick, easy way to tell. And when you're an ads manager, it's actually going to break it down and tell you paid 10 cents per engagement, or you paid 90 cents per engagement. So it's going to vary from business to business, but if you just run a couple ads, that's going to help you get a feel for what your average cost should be, and if it's too high, or if it's something that you're getting a really good cost on, and then maybe you want to put a little bit more money on it.
So initially the ads are really for, when you talk about the engagement ads, it's really for brand awareness, brand recognition, really getting your name out there and people becoming more familiar with you, your practice brand, and then you can nurture that relationship down the line. And then who knows, maybe they become a client, or you're offering an e-course, or that's when you can sell later on down the line.
Right. Yeah. So anytime I've got a blog post or a tutorial or how to or whatever, I always promote those on my Facebook page, because I want to make sure people see it. And if I just put it up on my Facebook page, nobody's going to see it because organic reach is so low on Facebook. And then that gives me a good idea. I can kind of start to tell, well, this blog post, I got a ton of comments, a ton of likes on it. So this topic is really popular. And this other one, it's kind of so maybe I'll just kind of skip that one for now.
When we went through your course, there was some things that really stuck out in regards to like image. There's certain things that really work. Can you share some of those tips in regards to images and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I love, like, my brand, I use a lot of bright colors, mostly because I know that works on Facebook. So I use a lot of hot pink and like bright yellow in my ads. That works for me. So I know not everyone uses like hot pink and yellow, but when you're creating ads, bright colors, anything that's like unique and interesting to catch their eye. What we find, especially with images, is that it doesn't necessarily have to do with the content. It's more that we use that image to get attention, so then people read through your ad or they click through and read your blog post. The other thing we do is we use tall ads. So we'll create our ad. Most people use the horizontal image, so like just the regular Facebook image that you see all the time, and we flip those, so we make them tall. So we do, is it 1200 by 1650 is what we design our ads at. So they're the really cool tall images, and that stands out in the news feed. So when people are scrolling through on their phones, they can't miss your image. And so those get a ton of engagement.
Yeah, that was such a great like ninja tip. Like when we took your course, we're like, oh my God, that's so cool. And then like when we would do the ad, I'd pick up my phone and I'd be like, look how cool this ad is. It takes up the whole phone.
I know.
Exactly. Yeah. So the vertical ad is just like your phone. So it takes up the whole screen. It's really, really cool.
It is cool.
It does. And no one else really uses them. So yeah, you're like basically hacking the news feed. So your ad is going to stand out. So we usually you'll see lower cost, you'll see more engagement. So anything you can do to make your ad stand out, whether it's bright colors, the tall images work really well, really cool, bright stock photos, or if you're using images of yourself, make sure there's something fun or interesting or unique going on in the photo. It's not just like a boring, headshot, just because there's so many of those on Facebook, people are just scroll right past them.
Mm-hmm.
And what are some of the things to stay away from to ensure that Facebook doesn't flag your ad or not approve your ad? Because I know I've experienced that, and that's been a very frustrating thing for me before I started your course and learned more about it. I'd be spending this time trying to boost a post, and Facebook would say, oh, sorry, we can't approve it, but they don't tell you why. And you're like, you rewrite it 1,000 times and you can't figure out what the heck, why won't this post get approved? It's like, vanilla. Why isn't it getting approved?
Right? Yeah. And that's something that people run into all the time. And Facebook doesn't give you a lot of feedback on that. So there are a couple things. Usually the big thing that will get an ad flagged is if you have too many yous, just YOU or you're doing this. If you've got too many yous, Facebook will flag your ad because we can't address the user directly. So basically Facebook found when they were doing surveying Facebook users, when an ad would pop up and say like, oh, are you engaged, or congratulations on your engagement, it freaked people out that Facebook knows so much about us, right?
Like they're stalking me.
Yeah, exactly. So Facebook doesn't like for us to address the user directly. So using too many, you can say you in your ad. Just be careful if you've got too many. You also just want to stay away from things like assuming how people are feeling. So you don't want to say like, are you feeling sad? Are you feeling depressed? So we can't make assumptions about people. Even if we may know it's true, like someone just got engaged based off of their targeting, we still can't assume that. So you just might have to rework your copy a little bit. That's usually the big thing that gets ads flagged, is addressing the user directly.
And one of the things, if you're a therapist using it for your therapy business, is you really want to speak a lot in general terms, right? Like forget the psychobabble, like just talking how your client would talk, right? Whether they're feeling stressed or arguing with their partner or, sleepless nights because you have a young baby at home. Those types of things, that's going to engage people. I always tell therapists when we're coaching therapists, they want to like explain all their like CBT and solution focus and EMDR, and I'm like, guys, no. So
nobody has any idea.
Leave that for the therapy room because you know what you're doing. No one needs to know about it.
Right. And most people don't know what that means, right? Like that's like, if I'm not a therapist, like I probably have no idea
exactly
what all that jargon means, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What other things do you find? I mean, I know that you, in your course, like you talk about like e-commerce, retail, and different areas. So within our industry, what are some of the things that if a therapist is using Facebook ads for their business, what else do they struggle with?
I think the big thing for, especially if it's a local business, it can be a little tricky making sure that you're getting your ads in front of the right people, because you're usually working with a much smaller audience size than someone that runs an online business. So I think it can be tricky finding the right audience. And targeting is one of the trickiest parts of Facebook advertising anyway. And that's usually the part that trips most people up, whether it's local or not. And so I think that the big thing to remember is you're probably not going to nail your targeting right out of the gate. You probably are going to have to test a couple different audiences, and you may not have just one audience that performs. You might have a couple of different audiences that you're running your ads to. So don't be scared to test. Don't be scared to kind of experiment and see and find what works for you. And then I think the other thing that we already talked about is focus on building that relationship first before you try to make the sale. Because I do think that's the biggest mistake people make, because we all hear about, you know, so-and-so that launched an ad and then they made 6 figures overnight, or they were flooded with leads. But the truth is they did a lot of testing before that happened, right? They ran a lot of bad ads to get that really good ad. Like, that rarely happens that you nail it like that on the first go. So, so I think it's just keep in mind that you're testing that Facebook ad. You really are just testing your messaging and what connects and your targeting. So I think we need to keep that in mind, that it's a way to test things and not just expect that you're going to get all these amazing results right away. They will come, and you will see a good ROI from it. But in the beginning, just remember you're still kind of figuring out what works for you.
And once you have a good ROI and you have good results from one particular ad, is that when you want to create a lookalike audience, or do you want to do it at another point in time?
Yeah, so once you find what works, stick with it. You can put more money on it. You can let it run longer. That's the thing, is once you figure out what works for you, like I tell people this all the time, I use a lot of the same copy that I used in the beginning, because that's what works. That's what converts for me. So you're not going to have to reinvent the wheel every time you create a Facebook ad. And then once you've been running your ad for a while, like you've got people on your email list, you've got people engaging with your Facebook page, then you can create those lookalike audiences. And those are pretty cool, because then Facebook's going to do all the work for you. So like you guys have an email list. And so basically what happens, you upload that email list to Facebook. They've got all this data. So they're going to take a look at that list and say, okay, well, these people have all these things in common. And then they're going to go out and find an audience that's similar to that. So they're going to do the work for you. And those are usually really effective audiences.
And one of the things, I know that we're not like talking about this aspect, but I know, like you said, email list. So the back side of the Facebook stuff is like your funnel, right? You're funneling people into building that nurturing relationship. So there's a lot of work behind the scenes. So if you imagine like a Facebook ad, it's kind of like an ad for your favorite retail store. And then you get to the store's door and you open up the store. And if the store was completely empty, you're like, what? Okay. So you might have a Facebook ad and you might pull them in and draw them in, but you need to continue to provide content and information and things that are a contribution to them. And that's where Amy's talking about, like getting on them on your e-newsletter or somehow in your funnel, or maybe you have a very brief, I don't know, a free course for couples, or a free course on how to, help your baby stop crying at night or something like that. And then you're nurturing that relationship over time. So you have to make sure that there's something after the Facebook ad. And I know that's not our topic today, the whole thing, we're talking about Facebook ads, but I just want to say that because I don't want there to be an illusion like, if I run an ad, great, I'm going to get clients. And I know I had that perspective, because I didn't understand, especially how our consumers or our clients act, is they're not, like, I love how Michael says it, is Facebook ads, especially for therapists, you're not buying a pair of red pumps, right? It's not an impulse buy, that it's a quick decision. Like, I want them, I don't want them. But I'm sure we've all been on Facebook and we have those ads of the clothing and it's like, oh, $20, no big deal, I'll buy it. Therapy's not the same way. It's an investment.
Exactly.
I mean, if sometimes I think about therapy, like come sit with a stranger, pay them money and tell them all your secrets. Like, that's a very intimate process. And like, you have to feel like you can trust somebody. And sometimes that takes time.
Very well
exactly. And a good thing too, if you're boosting posts on Facebook, is they've got it's fairly new and it's called a page engagement audience. So that's a good audience. Basically, we could only like retarget people that visited our website or were on our email list. But now you can create an engagement audience of everyone that's ever engaged with your Facebook posts, with your Facebook ads. So if you're running those boosted posts, you're able to stay in front of them so you can keep building that relationship.
Nice. Good ninja tip for us.
Yeah, that's new to me. I haven't heard that before.
We're actually getting
Yeah.
We're actually getting ready to launch our paperwork webinar and our supervision course. So we're like in the final stages of getting everything complete to launch that. So that's a
And
good
the Facebook
tip.
ads will be the next step.
They will be.
Yes.
Yeah, so you guys need to go set up your page engagement audience. It's under custom audiences. So
All right, got it. Under custom
set
audience.
that up.
Let me write that down. Custom audiences. Yeah, you might get a flood of questions in the group as we're trying to do all this and make sure
It's all good.
Yeah, so we're getting some live coaching while we're doing the podcast. Yes, awesome. Beneficial on multiple levels.
So Amy, you just made some good points today is about being creative with your ad. You talked about ad copy or ad images that work. You really talked a lot about testing different ideas and copy to see what your audience responds to, starting with a small budget and definitely tracking your ads to see what's working. That's really important. When I went through business coaching, my coach would say, you cannot change that which you can't measure. So it's really important to be able to cross compare. I know actually with our Facebook ads, we started an Excel sheet and looking at the different things. Well, you're not doing that because you're not the numbers person, but I'm looking at all the different things and trying to figure out like what's going to work best. So awesome. Is there any other things that you feel is really important to know about Facebook ads?
Yeah, I think that what you said too about tracking is, pay attention to your numbers, because that's another place that people do get into trouble is they'll spend money on their Facebook ads and they can't say what happened with the ads. Did you get more traffic to your website? Did you get people that reached out to you? And also just being realistic about your goals. So you're probably not going to have a flood of people contact you off of that first Facebook ad. But if you're building that relationship, then that's the first piece of that. So Facebook ads really, they're a long-term game. They're not going to work overnight. It's not going to be something that you throw up and they just work like that. So when you think of it just like any other marketing tool, you have to be consistent with it. You're going to have to test a lot of things. Some things aren't going to work, and that's okay. But my biggest piece of advice for people getting started is always start small. Like test small, keep your budget small. You don't have to throw a lot of money at this when you're just testing. Once you know what works, then you can start spending some money on it. But give yourself some time to get comfortable with it and to see what works for you. And I think that's the big thing is it's going to be different for everybody. What works for one person may be completely different for another business.
Awesome. Well, we
Nice.
so appreciate you and having you here. And what do you have a giveaway for our audience?
Yeah, so I have got some ad templates, right, that I'm giving away.
Yes, you have some ad
So,
templates.
Ad templates. So those are on. You can head over to the website. Those are there. You can download those. Breaks down some ads that you can see that they can take and tweak and use for their own ads.
Awesome. Why recreate the wheel? So we'll put the link for that on our show notes page. So you guys can head over to the show notes page as well. So privatepracticestartup.com, the podcast episodes, or you can find that at amysociallabmarketing.com, either or. So thank you so much for being with us, Amy. It's nice to have you live. It's funny, Amy and I have talked twice through Zoom. The first time her video didn't work, and then the second time my video didn't work. So
And today everything went beautifully smooth. So
I
that's
know.
wonderful. Let's not jinx ourselves.
Don't you love
why
that?
did you say that?
We made it this far.
So Startup Nation, thanks so much for hanging out with us as we talk more about online marketing and Facebook ads. Next week, you guys are going to want to join us for Phil Singleton, who is an expert in SEO, and we're going to go on a deep dive down in the Florida Ocean about SEO. Well, maybe not the
Yes.
Florida Ocean. Not in this weather for sure, because it's 40 degrees. But anyway, I know you guys are crying for us here in Florida. But make sure you check out our show notes page for all the tips, resources, giveaways, those template giveaways from today's show. We ask if you could subscribe, rate, and review. Why? Because we want to know that, we're making a difference in your life so you can make a difference in others. And that's really what inspires us. Having an online business, there's not a lot of instant feedback. And so we think sometimes we're doing good in the world. We know we are, but it's always a pleasure to get a Google review or a nice, sweet email saying, you guys inspired me, or you helped me so much, or thank you for helping me understand this. So if you could just share what you're thinking and feeling about our podcast, that would be a great place to do that right in iTunes. So we look forward to having you next week. And thanks for allowing us to inspire you from startup to mastery.
See you next time.